The plans have been tangled in government red tape since.
Nobody in the government disagrees. We're just waiting for them to do something about it.
3 games in the NHL tonight, all being played under different circumstances. Bernie?
Yes, Tony, it's the debut of substitute on-ice officials in the NHL, and the 58 regular officials are on strike. Just 3 games in the league, and of the available newcomers, one can be sure we're seeing the best of the lot in the 3 games. The NHL wouldn't want any embarrassing incidents, especially on the first night. In Toronto, a veteran Quebec junior official, Luc Lachapelle, is the referee. He's 39 years of age, a qualified referee. In fact, many suggest, including Leafs head coach Pat Burns, that Lachapelle would be in the NHL if the pay scale was higher. He makes more money in his full-time job. His other job? He's a corrections officer and physical education instructor at a Quebec prison. So dealing with NHL players tonight is obviously easier than dealing with people in his normal job. Lachapelle and the other officials in action tonight will update the NHL, the Lions, and other sports a little later.
Thank you, Bernie. Coming up after a break on the News Hour, half the age, but with twice the energy. The Vancouver civic election features some young competition. And later on sports, meet a hockey team that's tired of losing. So tired, in fact, they've sought professional help.
The incredible Wiltshire Staysharp knife. It sharpens itself this sharp every time you take them out and put them away. And Wiltshire always makes a perfect gift. Wiltshire Staysharp, the knives that sharpen themselves.
What do you do, Daddy?
Daddy's an insurance broker.
What's that?
Well, there are big places called insurance companies.
Is that where you work?
No, honey. But Daddy knows all about the different insurance companies. And I advise people about which home and business insurance is best for them.
Daddy, what's insurance?
Let's go down to the kitchen for some ice cream.
Okay.
Okay.
Your insurance broker understands.
Suspension technology is both science and art. The unique cab-forward design gives the Eagle Vision an exceptional wide track. It minimizes weight transfer from side to side, maximizing stability. With 4-wheel independent suspension, handling feels as though the car is guided by your will, rather than by mechanical parts. The Canadian-built Vision covers corners as faithfully as a convenience store. The Vision from Eagle. Driver and car as one.
Exceptional quality at exceptional savings. I'm Dorothy Scott, and I have something special to show you here at Gregg's Furniture. You'll sleep easier in unbelievable comfort with an electropedic adjustable bed, recommended for circulatory, back, breathing, and heart problems. At Gregg's, the electropedic is available in all sizes and very well priced. Fully guaranteed, your best bet for good sleep is here at Gregg's Furniture, 2300 Douglas Street in Victoria.
You may have seen our trucks around town. They're part of a family of vehicles, supplies, and good people who have been providing Islanders quality since the late 1930s. At Butler Brothers, we know this is your baby, and we take our responsibility to heart. Whether you're renovating or building your dream home, we're right there with everything you need. Next time you're thinking of building, bring your family to meet our family. You'll be glad you did.
Butler Brothers Building Center, we're here.
Mohawk is an oil company with a difference. For instance, this is our field of exploration, and we turn Canadian prairie grain into ethanol, a natural gasoline additive which really reduces harmful exhaust emissions. Cleaner gas, clearer thinking.
Turning to municipal politics now, as British Columbians prepare to head back into polling booths this Saturday to vote for mayors, councillors, and school trustees. As usual, there's no shortage of issues in BC's biggest city, and as we've reported, no shortage of candidates for mayor. And while many of them are something less than legitimate, one candidate is very serious about his campaign, even though he's just barely old enough to vote.
When you multiply the vector ABC by the matrix X, it'll give you the negative.
Unlike the other 22 candidates running to be Vancouver's next mayor, Ari Benbasat has to fit his campaign around his linear algebra class.
Very bright, and he does also have a sense of humor. He's very competent in all the things he does.
Benbasat turned 18 just 3 weeks ago, barely qualifying for this election. He admits he doesn't have much experience.
Most of it's still hanging up at least.
But he has a message and a platform. It's a campaign run on a shoestring budget.
My only donation so far is for my parents, who've kicked in $50 for me. I figure that I'll probably be taking about another $100, $150 out of my savings. Most of my expenses will be for photocopying. I can't really afford any major advertising in newspapers or anything. Our crime rate is going up. We have the pollution.
So getting his message across in a campus radio interview is important. But if you think Ari's young, check out his campaign manager, barely 16 years old and a second-year student.
I think if young people decide to get involved in the political process, I think that's really healthy.
When I heard that the deposit had been reduced to zero, my first thought was, okay, well, Ari's going to be running for mayor. And I volunteered to be a campaign manager. I've been inside campaigns before.
Ari Benbasat, candidate for mayor.
But even on campus, it's still hard for voters to get past Benbasat's age.
I don't know if he's ready or not, so.
Sure, if he can do the job, I don't see why not.
You have a lot of hair on your face for somebody who's 18.
Well, he shall wait a few years. Thank you.
It's tough here. Everybody's...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that if I go out there and I get my message out, people will just ignore my age and look at what I have to say. And that's happening already. So I'm happy about that.
Hi, I'm Dean Sawyer from Sawyer Sewing Center. All Genomes are now sale priced.
From the lightweight 14-stitch Genome Portable to 3 different models of Genome Sergers. And of course, the Memory Craft 8000. Sawyer's has a price range to suit your budget. Now sale priced, gift wrapped, and ready to sew.
When you think sewing, think Sawyer's and Genome, Sawyer Sewing Center, downtown Victoria.
Excuse me, ever worry about your teeth between brushings?
Never. I use Crest.
But, I'm talking about when you're not brushing.
So am I. My dentist says Crest goes on fighting cavities all day long.
All day long? Oh.
For minor throat irritations.
Here.
Trust Vicks throat drops for soothing relief. Vicks, good-tasting relief that's good for the whole family.
Will a ready-to-serve frosting be creamy enough for this cake? Maybe, if you beat it, heat it, cheat it. Or just open new easy-to-spread frosting from Duncan Hines. Like homemade, it's made with Dutched cocoa and whipped till it's smooth and creamy. You won't just see how it's smoother and creamier than before. You'll hear about it, too. New easy-to-spread frosting from Duncan Hines.
Traditional umbrellas leave you fiddling in the rain? Try a Carabrella. Thanks to an exclusive system, Carabrella opens and closes automatically. Push the umbrella to the ground to cock the mechanism, then press the opening button. It opens single-handedly so you don't have to drop everything. Simply press the closing button and Carabrella closes as easily. In full-size or compact model, Carabrella comes in a choice of colors and designs. Carabrella, the fashionable touch at your fingertips. Available at these retailers.
It looks European. Yeah. Definitely European in style.
Seat hugs you. There's lots of room.
It's very inviting and comfortable.
Transversely mounted V6.
If I want to be by myself, I won't go upstairs and read. I will go for a drive. It would be a winding road, trees, mountains. There would have to be water.
I love the way this thing corners. Responses in this car are smooth. I could drive this car all day. You just made a dream come true.
CHEK 6, Wednesday night. Neil Patrick Harris stars in A Family Torn Apart by Murder.
No weapon, no witnesses.
CHEK 6, Wednesday night at 8.
Back to the Vancouver Museum now to hear more about our weather from Norm. Norm?
Right, Tony, and the special display that's opening officially tomorrow night here at the Vancouver Museum. And to explain it, tell you what it's all about far better than I could, I have Laura Peers here with me. She's the associate curator. And Roger Hope, our cameraman, and Jeff, his assistant, shot some footage earlier. And Laura will try to describe what's going on as you have a look what's on the inside.
Well, in the 1830s, the sailors of Montana journeyed all the way to St. Louis to ask Jesuit missionaries to come to them. And this exhibition is a collaboration between First Nations peoples and Catholic Jesuits that looks at what happened in that encounter and what happened since, and looks at the initial excitement over the missions, the later oppression of Native peoples, and
so it does tell both sides of the story.
Both sides, absolutely. And this is Father de Smet's robe and his buckskin coat that he used in the mission, and some of the treasures that he sent to Europe from the Salish of Montana.
And how does this bring us from 1840 up to the present day, Laura?
Well, we look at the survival of Native people through the 19th century and emerging into the present as Native Catholics. So we're looking at the incorporation of this whole mission into their own heritage.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll
Hope
encourage
you enjoy
people
it.
to come down. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
And if you have a quick look at our satellite photo, you'll see that there's quite a bit of cloud cover out there off the coast. It's broken up to the extent that today provided a good example. A few sunny breaks, quite a bit of wind, the isolated hail showers, snow flurries on the mountains, a bit of rain down around your ankles, and that's the way it's going to be pretty well all the rest of this week. Maximums in British Columbia today were around 10, 11 degrees, actually with 12.4 at Sandspit, breaking a record that goes back for November the 15th, back to 1967. Across Canada, looking first of all at Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, temperatures very, very near zero. Well, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees for the daytime highs, and the overnight lows, of course, in the freezing range, with probably the warmest weather again coming in southern Ontario, and a mix from there eastward to the Maritimes. Forecaster says we have a broad trough of low off our west coast here, and we have a westerly flow mixed in with it, which is going to give us some cool, unstable air, always a 40 to a 60% probability of precipitation right through to the end of the week, and the freezing level 1,000 meters. This photo is of Valhalla Provincial Park in the Kootenays. I'm told that this is one of the largest alpine lakes in North America. The picture's from Sue Jeffrey of Victoria. And our weather photo tonight is the Sunshine Coast sky from Mary Gamel at Powell River. And now around our forecast regions, pretty cool around Whitehorse with clear skies, -12. In the Peace, clouds and flurries with the overnight low -5. Central part of British Columbia, sun and a few flurries as well, the low -6 on the north coast. Forecaster says we'll have clouds and showers and flurries and wind. For the Thompson, Okanagan, and the West Kootenay, again, a mix of conditions as these systems work their way from west to east across BC. East Kootenay, Columbia, clouds and showers with snow at the higher elevations. And for the southwest coast, clouds and sun and showers and wind, a little bit of everything, but remaining fairly cool. And the long-range outlook says there's at least a 50% probability of precipitation right through to the end of the week. From the Maritime Museum, that's our Monday weather report.
Thank you, Norm. It was a murder that, even in our increasingly violent times, was stunning in its brutality. A young, beautiful woman gunned down in cold blood and in broad daylight on a Coquitlam street. Alexandra Pesic was a 25-year-old divorced mother when she was shot to death in what the Crown says was a contract killing. Today, 3 people, including her former mother-in-law, went on trial for murder.
In the early evening hours of August 5th, 1992, the young life of Alexandra Pesic ended in a hail of bullets. 2 men drove up to Pesic's car and fired 6 shots at her. One hit her in the head, another in the neck. She died minutes, if not seconds, later. She's survived by a son who was 4 years old at the time and her mother, a woman who was emotionally destroyed by the death of her daughter. The bizarre twist in the story came when Alexandra's former mother-in-law was arrested and charged along with 3 other men for the murder. Today Today, 15 months later, the trial started with friends and family members of both the accused and the victim in court. The key witness was Helen Katona, a close friend of Jelka Pesic, and she said Pesic told her many times that Alexandra was an unfit mother, an unfit wife, an opportunist, and a gold digger. Katona went on to say that Jelka Pesic once asked a friend of hers if he knew someone who could kill Alexandra and that she'd be willing to pay for it. But Pesic's lawyer challenged Katona on this, saying that her friend, in testimony to the police, never mentioned this conversation. Katona also testified Pesic told her nothing would make her happier than to see Alexandra, her mother and grandmother dead, and that Jelka would go to their coffins to make sure no one got out. She also talked about the Cindy James book, the burning of a tree at Alexandra's house, and how Jelka wanted a voodoo doll with Alexandra's name on it.
The long, bizarre saga that turned a New York auto mechanic's name into a punchline came to an end today. 37-year-old Joey Barfuco stood before a judge this morning, having admitted to sleeping with Amy Fisher before she was of age. His lawyer argued for leniency, saying the fact the affair led to Fisher shooting and wounding his wife was punishment enough. Fisher, who's serving a jail term for the shooting, appeared at the hearing to argue for a stiff sentence. In the end, the judge gave Barfuco the maximum, 6 months in jail and a $5,000 fine. In other international news tonight, the World Health Organization is warning that tuberculosis could become virtually incurable if it continues to spread in developing countries. WHO says 30 million people could die over the next 10 years. Just over 1 day to go before the U.S. Congress votes on the North American Free Trade Agreement, President Clinton is spending these last few days doing some frenzied lobbying, trying to win enough votes to pass the deal. And those cries of anguish you heard today were probably coming from lovesick young males across the continent. Early today, the publicist for Michelle Pfeiffer revealed that the actress married TV producer David Kelly over the weekend. And after a break on tonight's News Hour, he lives in luxury, works by his own rules, and vacations 6 months out of every year. Find out how he does it on Money Month.
And the dragon roared at the man. And
How about a Vicks throat drop?
Yes.
Lemon, menthol, or cherry?
Cherry, please.
Helps your throat, huh?
Mm-hmm. Tastes like cherry. Then the dragon roared at the man.
Did the dragon roar really loud?
No, because the dragon didn't have a Vicks throat drop.
Vicks throat drops. Good tasting relief that's good for the whole family.
Mothers often ask me how they can make toilet training easier for their children.
Dr. Donna Pachorik on toilet training.
As I found with my own daughter, Alexandra, if your child knows when she feels wet, it's a lot easier to learn. That's why I like these new Pampers trainers.
Only Pampers trainers have a Feel Wet Learner Liner, a top sheet designed to hold some wetness of the surface to help your child feel when it's potty time.
Okay, Mom.
Pampers trainers help make learning easier for both of us.
I did it!
Pampers trainers, the way to learn.
Staring into his black coffee, he said, I need change. Well, I said, why not try new Irish cream coffee mate or hazelnut coffee mate or amaretto coffee mate? But he said, but nothing, I said. These new coffee mate flavors change everyday coffee into specialty coffee. Try one, I said. Oh, it's very, very good, he said, but I need change like dimes and nickels. Oh, I said, but by then they towed his car. Coffee mate makes your cup of coffee taste great.
If you built a pickup with the most powerful choice of engines, the largest and quietest cab, and it was the first with standard driver's airbag and steel side door impact beams, why would you make it look like just another truck? Drop in to your local Chrysler dealer and check out the new Dodge pickup for yourself.
Stocking stuffer and Holly Dollars Christmas games. A scratch and win, they slip right into any stocking not too big. They're nice and thin.
Give them to your dear relations or the guy who fixed your car.
Winning 10 or 50,000 would please the stylist of your car.
Give one to your chiropractor for the time your back was sore.
You cannot buy them at your butcher's.
Only at your Lotto store.
Time once again for Money Month, where we spend November focusing on financial issues that affect your pocketbook. This week, we concentrate not on how to spend money, but how to make it. Here's Deb Hope.
Thank you, Tony. It's a frustrating, never-ending cycle that few of us are able to break. No matter how much money we make, it's not enough. And our income, which only a few years ago would have seemed like a king's ransom, is just barely enough to get us by. This week, we'll try to find out how the average person can make, pardon the expression, mo money. And we begin tonight with a young man, he's 34 to be exact, who seems to be doing it the old-fashioned way. Jim Peters makes money building and selling things. He works out of his basement, but don't be fooled. He's renovated 29 nightclubs, numerous hotel lounges, other people's houses, and a lot of the work was done here. It's paid off. Peters reluctantly admits he's been a millionaire for several years. The Burnaby home he built, all paid for. One of his cars, a Mercedes 450 SL. His motto is, I can do that. His method, sell people whatever they need and give them a deal.
I sell everything from the carpeting on the floor to the pictures on the walls and satellite dishes, hot tubs, swimming pools, window frames, doors, custom glass, mirrors, carpeting, tables, chairs, table bases, furniture, upholstered furniture. One of the nicest ways that I feel to make a dollar is if I can sell someone something cheaper than they can buy it and make a dollar in between, everybody's happy. It's a win-win situation, and that's the only way to make a dollar.
He started young, had a bottle route at 3, made loans to brothers and sisters at 4. He's driven to be the best. This was his grade 12 woodworking project, when others were making end tables. But his first big money scheme was cars. This Jag Sports Sovereign is worth $107 grand new. He won't say what he paid, but you can bet he'll sell it for more.
I've got the right size screws. I had 3 cars before I was old enough to drive them.
You fixed them up?
Fixed them up and sold them. And I've had over 100 different cars, well over 100 different cars, and possibly bar the Mercedes, which I still own. I've never lost money on a car. I've made money on the cars.
He buys them from car auctions, friends, the classified, fixes them and sells them, as he said, at a profit. Peters has also made money doing nightclubs, hotel bars, and yes, even exotic dance stages. But even this entrepreneur had to wait for his first clear dollar.
For the first 2 years, I didn't make any money. All the money I made went to stationery and to accountants and to taxes, and it was a bit disheartening. But ultimately, 15 years later, it's certainly my bread and butter.
Many dollars later, he's still doing a lot of it himself. And on this job, a $60,000 house renovation, his tradesmen give him high marks as a boss.
Do you think that lattice is going to tie that top and bottom rail together, or do you think we're going to have to put a support in the middle?
What makes him good?
Well, he's honest. He does good work. He employs good trades.
He treats everybody fairly, treats everybody well, like equals, really.
And he was telling me he likes to say people work through him instead of for him.
Yeah, well, that would be right, actually. That's a good description. Yeah.
Follow the house?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Jim Peters says he can lose up to 10 pounds on a big job. He just forgets to eat.
I work like a maniac. Like a maniac. It just, people shake their heads. And I stop regularly and wonder whether I'm doing it right, whether this is what life's all about. I work very hard when I work.
Every day?
Often, it's 7 days a week, yeah. But the luxury in that is that I work as little as half the year and sometimes less than half the year.
And the other half of the year?
I take life easy and enjoy and get on to the other things that I think are important in life.
You could make twice as much money then, conceivably.
I could, but I'm afraid I'd live half as long. I prefer to work with gusto and play with gusto. I'm much more manic that way.
That's right. Jim Peters plays 6 months a year, fishing for the big one, and he's caught more than his fair share. He parties. He's traveled to over 70 countries, spends a lot of time in the sun. His play headquarters is this townhouse he owns in Boca Raton, Florida. Of course, he has a car here too. How does he do it? He says he keeps his monies separate.
I have car money, and I have house money, and I have play money, and I have business money, and I don't meld them. They're not dealt with in the same way.
So in other words, you never take money from money you've made on a car and go and play with it?
No. I've seen people, they save and they save and they save, and they buy a car, for instance. And they sell that car, and they've got a bag of money in their pocket, and instantly they're off for a holiday, and they're drinks for the house, and out to dinner, and a new wardrobe, and they turn around with higher aspirations, higher expectations, and new dreams of greater cars, for instance, and they look, and their pots are empty. They've squandered or allowed that money to find different homes, and that to me is a common mistake.
You could say Jim Peters is sitting pretty. He is. But lucky? He'd say luck has little to do with it. He's still looking for deals for himself and others. Yes, he makes a lot of money, but he insists he earns every penny.
Michael Campbell joins me now. And Michael, Jim Peters created his own job, and it seems to me that's becoming one of the better ways to actually make some money.
Well, it's certainly one of the major trends. I mean, let me give you a couple of stats here. In 1981, between 81 and 92, we had about a 20% growth in what you'd call traditional workforce. We had a 60% growth in self-employment. Like, that's 3 to 1. And a lot of that came out of the downsizing in the 80s, that people, especially in the private sector, lost their jobs, and they went out and became consultants of one form or another. They really had to rely on themselves. But the point I want to make is this wasn't a fluke. This is a trend that all of us are part of. And if you saw this kind of a line that kind of goes straight up like this, you're going to find out that you're going to be part of it, whether you are today or not. There's a huge movement toward flexible employment, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, toward self-employment, toward providing services. And if you look around your own office today, if you're lucky enough to have a job, look at how many people visit you as self-employed in some capacity. Maybe your accountant does. You know, the bookkeeping, accounting, it may be tax preparation. You know, it might be specific services, janitorial, whatever. Those jobs are all part of the new self-employment revolution.
But surely there are always going to be companies. Aren't some of us going to be still working at traditional jobs? Are you saying everybody eventually will be working for themselves?
Well, I think literally everyone's going to have a look at that. You know, and a lot of reasons too. I mean, you talked last week about lifestyle choices like being up and having a bread and breakfast. It's all a combination. A lot of people work self-employed because they say, I want to work for myself. I want to be my own boss. Men or women are doing that. That you look at other trends that they're forced into it, literally by circumstances of restructuring or what have you, and they have good educations and they move forward in that way. Other people are doing it simply, they're looking for the financial niche and they don't want to share some of their income with other people. But it's all part of a major trend that I think that it's important for people to understand that they may be part of it whether they want to or not.
Okay, so we all might be self-employed, and if we're going to make money being self-employed, how do we do that?
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you asked that, Deb, because we're going to be here all week. That's exactly what I want to deal with, and I want to give people one bit of advice tonight, or one bit of homework. And that if you're looking, a lot of people say, I'd love to own my own business, but I don't have the money, or I'd love to do this, but I don't have the this.
I don't have the drive, I don't have the talent.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Well, let's look at the talent part first. Let's look at what hobbies that you have. Let's tonight maybe write down some of the things that you think there's a big hole for. I remember myself in 1969, I thought everyone would be wearing blue jeans after I watched Cool Hand Luke. And I thought, I'll tell you, someone's going to make a lot of money doing blue jean and denim shirts. Many people had that idea. Unfortunately, I didn't follow through, and that's why I've got $1.50 in my pocket, and Mr. Levi's got a lot more money. But just if you observe those kind of opportunities, and that's what we're going to talk about the whole week.
Okay, and you're also going to be giving people some suggestions on your favorite books for making money this week, aren't you? And you've read all of them.
Oh, well, I've tried, God knows. But my favorite book, as you can see here, is Think and Grow Rich. It's by Napoleon Hill. That is the original Bible of sort of self-help motivation books that we've created $1 billion industry out of. Written years ago, just as valid today, and I think it should be the starting point for any young entrepreneurs, male or female, who want to get started, old entrepreneurs, middle-aged, you name it, read the book.
Okay.
And we'll give you 4 more before the week's out.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And finally tonight, we remind you that you can write, fax, or phone us with your questions or suggestions during Money Month. The address is Box 4700, Vancouver, BC, V6B 4A3. Our fax number is 421-9466. Tony.
Thank you, Deb. We'll take a break and then come back with tonight's sports news.
If you look at our lines right now, they're all 6'4", 6'3".
To be with you again, I'd walk around the world. There's nothing that I wouldn't do. I'd search all the while, fly 1,000 miles, just to find my way to you. You had to leave for me to realize. I need to see your smile again.
Accepted in twice as many places as American Express. Visa, it's the only card you need. And Visa is the exclusive card of the Olympic Games.
In Alaska, you'll find 586,000 square miles of untamed wilderness, 17 of the tallest peaks in the U.S., 427 species of birds, and more than 100,000 glaciers. But you'll find there's just one way to experience it, Princess. Because there's no place on Earth like Alaska and no cruise line like Princess. It's more than a cruise, it's the Love Boats.
It's a big deal when hot and cool connect.
Hot eats, cool treats, a Dairy Queen.
Want a bargain? Get a move on to Dairy Queen for the 3-for-all, only $3.99. Get a 1/3 pound double cheeseburger and a large order of golden fries and a 21 fluid ounce soft drink. Put them all together and you've got a 3-for-all for just $3.99. Now at Dairy Queen.
Hot eats, cool treats, we treat you right.
How tough are Chevy and GMC full-size pickups? Tougher than this. Chevy and GMC delivers more standard horsepower and payload than Ford. So where does that leave Ford? Make a hard-hitting deal at your BC Chevy GMC truck dealer today. How tough are Chevy and GMC compact pickups? Tougher than this. The all-new Chevy and GMC pickups deliver power steering and more standard horsepower. So where does that leave Ford? Score a deal at your BC Chevy GMC truck dealer today.
Now, tonight's top sports stories. Here's Bernie.
Thank you, Tony. The NHL against the officials. It's basically a test of wills. The NHL firm in its contract negotiations with its officiating staff. The regular officials are home tonight, and replacement officials have taken over their jobs. For how long? That's to be decided at the negotiating table. But for the time being, the spotlight is on the replacement officials.
It's a strong wind blowing outside the Pacific Coliseum, while inside strong feelings were circulating amongst the players who are concerned that replacement officials will not be as competent as those who worked the Vancouver-Anaheim game.
You look at our linesmen now, they're all 6'4", 6'3", and big, strong guys and have experience in breaking up fights and make sure that doesn't get out of control. And it'd be a pretty scary sight to see guys who couldn't handle big fellas trying to break something up. And then again, you got a game just getting out of hand because certain calls aren't made and the right calls aren't made. So those things are all concerns of ours.
Does it concern you with the possibility of replacement less experienced officials?
Well, there's always a concern when you make that sort of a move, but I'll have to see just how it works out, and they're still going to be playing the game, so we'll probably be more focusing on the games.
This is the officials' room at the Coliseum. We don't know who will be using it for the Vancouver-St. Louis game, but we did wonder if the NHL is asking the coaches for some extra cooperation from their players to make things as easy as possible for the rookie stripes.
No, they haven't asked us to do anything different. They'll penalize us if we open our mouth about the ones that are here now, or I mean the guys that just walked off the job, or the new one.
I can tell you real briefly and real succinctly, no comment.
Fair. I've got a lot of friends in that business that I've known over the years, and I think you have to respect our position, so I really don't have any comment at all.
How many guys do they got? They got everybody, I guess, eh? Oh, well, I mean, let's go to bed and pray everything's all right tomorrow.
These linesmen will be tested big time as they come in to break up this scrap with skates and arms flying all over.
Just 3 games on tap, and that wouldn't be a difficult task for the NHL to find competent officials. The real test will come when they have a dozen games on a single night. In Toronto, the Leafs and the Oilers, and Edmonton leads early in the 3rd period. Corson has 3. Montreal in front of Ottawa in the 3rd period. And it's Winnipeg and Calgary still scoreless in the opening period. The Mighty Ducks were just that at the Coliseum. Anaheim holding the edge in play throughout most of the contest, but the Canucks did score when it counted. Pavel Bure, after missing 8 games with a groin injury, was in the lineup and scored a spectacular shorthanded goal to tie the game at 16-31. Then, with less than 2 minutes remaining, a shot by defenseman Jerry Diddick is deflected by Gino Ojic. And Big Gino has his 5th goal in his last 17 games. The Canucks have the win, and Vancouver hosts St. Louis tomorrow night. The season's over for the BC Lions. Although they didn't win yesterday, it was a good effort in Calgary. In hockey, the goalie is frequently fingered for a loss, and in football, it's the quarterback. Right, Neil?
Well, Danny Barrett is as nice a person as you'll ever meet, but in this business, that doesn't mean anything. The bottom line is he didn't get the job done. Now, I realize he got a lot of help from teammates in not producing, but the quarterback's your focal point. That's the guy that sells tickets, and I can't see anyone buying him next year. Bill Comrie is going to have to make a business decision. Can he flog season's tickets, create an interest in the team if Barrett is back? I say he can't. There's going to have to be a huge shakeup, some names brought in to even have a remote chance of creating any excitement towards the football team.
Well, we've had Dunnigan, we've had Flutie, Barrett now, all in recent years, all quality quarterbacks. I don't think there's any question about that. But when you're saying Barrett is the fall guy, maybe it's time he moves on like his predecessors and leads another team to a championship.
Well, Danny Barrett's style doesn't work anymore in this league. You can't win with a drop-back passer. The odd time he scrambled, got out of the pocket against Calgary, he was effective. You combine that with the fact they don't have any team speed, and you know why they are out. They're not good enough. Last year they created some interest with a new owner and coaching staff. This time they can't do that. Now they got to find some players, and it starts with the quarterback.
Now to minor hockey, where youngsters play for fun. It doesn't matter if they win or lose, but there is a limit to losing.
It's another practice day for the Bruins. But this team needs more help than even Mom can give.
Our team is not very well organized.
Bad, really bad.
Our lines get switched around a lot, and we have a lot of trouble.
Their record is a perfect 6 losses, no wins.
I think we're in trouble.
But help is on the way. On the right is Joe Charbonneau. He knows what struggle is about. He fought his way onto the Canucks. Then from a friend, he heard about the struggling team. Joe knows how painful losing can be, and he knows the taste of victory. And he knows just a little coaching can make a difference.
When the play goes on your side, be on the top of your circle. You know, right in the middle on top of the circle.
The young Warriors listen, then watch,
They got to help you out a little bit more.
then listen,
Because it's not only
and watch.
your responsibility to stop the puck. You never know. Dreams come true all the time like this. You know, everybody's starting to like this when they play in the NHL, and they realize their dream later.
Game day, and they are pumped. Did Charbonneau make a difference? Can a big name make a difference?
As you know, we have not yet won one season game. I'd like to make sure that today we put that behind us. Joe Charbonneau said a couple of very important things to us. He talked about the fact that you've got to have that dream in your mind of how well you want to do and work towards it.
The players know what they have to do. They have to win. The parents have seen this all before. And what they see is what they've seen before. Their team is losing. But there's one thing you should know about the other team. The man behind their bench is Chris Adolphson, the former Canucks captain. He played during their best years.
Okay, good thinking.
But something is happening.
Look at him go, look at him go, look at him go, look at him go. Head up, Kyle. Yes! All right!
They are still losing, but not by 10 or 12 or 15 goals. They lost a squeaker. You happy with the way things turned out today?
Yep.
Why is that?
Because we didn't lose as badly as we usually do.
Oh, we did better than last time. We didn't lose as bad.
A losing team that doesn't feel bad about itself. They did just what Joe Charbonneau told them. They tried their best.
And a salute to Charbonneau and that entire team. A rather enjoyable story. Kamloops, for the first time ever, will host the Memorial Cup, the Canadian Junior Hockey Championship. The city of Kamloops and the WHL Blazers will host the 1995 Memorial Cup. It'll be a big boost to the Kamloops area.
Oh, it'd be great. You know, Kamloops is a great city, great weather. It'd be great here in May. I think it'd be a coup for Kamloops to be able to have something like that. They showed with the Canada Summer Games they can host an event of that magnitude, and I think we can do just a good job with the Memorial Cup.
So the Kamloops City will host the Memorial Cup in 1995. St. Louis Blues, as I mentioned, the visitors here for a game against the Canucks tomorrow night, and All-Star winger Brett Hull is the winner of the NHL's Player of the Week award. And two members of the World Series champion Toronto Blue Jays, Roberto Alomar and Devon White, are 1993 Golden Glove winners. Alomar his third straight at second base, and White winning his fifth Golden Glove in center field. And Tony, that's our look at sports.
Thank you, Bernie. Now our weather finale for tonight as we go back to Norm on location at the Vancouver Museum, find out what's going on there and hear about tomorrow's weather. Norm?
Okay, Tony, the story here is the Jesuits and the Salish, and it started in 1840. It continues today, and it continues here till March 94. In the weather department, very much a repeat of what we had today, a little bit of everything.
Thank you, Norm. That's tonight's News Hour. Good night.